You mentioned that you've been in Mallorca throughout December and that you've noticed that the riders are getting into a decent rhythm now. Have you noticed any changes this time round because of the Olympics coming up and because of the raised profile of Team Sky, who are getting bigger and bigger all the time? With 2012 set to be perhaps one of the most exciting years for British cycling, have you noticed anything different with particularly the British riders in the team? Is there any extra hunger, do you think, or is it business as usual?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that your riders like Geraint Thomas, Peter Kennett and Ben Swift are actually at this moment in time focused on team pursuit. So rather than going into a traditional road programme for them, they're actually following a team pursuit training programme. So obviously that's quite, it's a one-off, it's an Olympic year thing that's not going to happen on a normal road season. So I think that's pretty key. But I think there's a general excitement across the board about the Olympics, and certainly for the British guys, the Olympics being in their home country is very, very important. But also for the international guys as well. I think a lot of them are focusing on the either time trial at the Olympics or the road race at the Olympics, and so I think they're excited about it too. So generally, you can feel that it's Olympic year.
Great. And in terms of your own job, I know that our users are sort of always keen to know what you actually do sort of day in, day out, because you've got the Team Sky role and also your role with TeamGB. How do you sort of split your time? Are there certain days where if somebody rings you about TeamGB, you say, it's a Team Sky day for me today, I can't do that? Or it must be, in terms of organisation, quite a thing for you to get your head round, really?
I think, mate, to be honest, I think more is made of that than is actually the case. I work hard, I work long hours, but I'd like to think that the way I make it possible is a lot of the guys in the GB team are in Team Sky, so they're one of the same anyway. And actually, being able to manage the race programs for the GB guys, their road race programs, so that they can optimally prepare for the Olympics is quite a big advantage. So, being able to allow Geraint and Ben Swift and Peter Kennett, for example, at this moment in time, to have their programs tailored to the team pursuit is an advantage that we wouldn't previously have had it been with, had I just been the GB performance director. So there are certain advantages. But I don't split my time like a number of days, you just manage both. And it's just like having an extra department. It's not like two separate businesses, so it really works quite well. And at the end of the day, it's all about having good, my job is to conduct a little orchestra. And it's all about, for me, is having the best people in the best places underneath, to make sure that they're all doing experts in their own field, and then allowing them to do their jobs and supporting them and creating the right environment for them to be excellent in their own field. That's my job. Yes. And the danger for me is if I dive in and pick up the violin and tell the violinist this is how you do it, just undermine them straight away. And it's just not the way to do it. So actually, from my point of view, it's very much about looking maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years ahead, and thinking a bit more long term. It's more about philosophy, it's more about strategy, and a lot of the operational issues are dealt with on a day-to-day basis by the team. So that's generally how it works. So, for example, we're already thinking about Rio. So by the end of February, we're going to have our Rio plans pretty much dialed. Okay. So my kind of job's over there, really.
Yes. Well, that almost brings me on to my next question, which was I was about to ask you really sort of how hands-on you are with individual riders. I mean, if you look at sort of coaching down the years through various sports, some managers and coaches are extremely hands-on, monitoring what they have to eat, monitoring what time they go to bed, monitoring what days they're allowed to go out shopping and things like that. With yourself, how much trust do you put in your younger riders in particular, and sort of how hands-on are you in terms of monitoring them and making sure that they're making the right decisions?
Well, I think the way you work is basically that for every single rider in the GB squad and in Team Sky has a coach. And it's up to that coach to then manage that one-to-one rider relationship on a day-to-day basis. We create a framework and say, look, this is the philosophy we'd like you to use, this is how, broadly speaking, these are the values, this is how we'd like you to operate, and they then operate within that. If they have any issues or challenges, then they'll bring it to us for support. But on a day-to-day basis, that's the role of the coach, that's the role of the sports director at races, to have that one-to-one relationship with the team, with the riders, and manage that. So there's no necessity for me to have a one-to-one relationship on a coaching basis with any rider. You know, that's what the coaches are there for. It's for me to support the coaches to do their job.
Yes.
So, you know, I know what's going on. I've got some good reporting mechanisms, so I pretty much know what everybody's doing all of the time, and that's important. We've got good lines of communication, and I think what's very important is that from a rider's point of view, at any given point in time, if they do feel that they want more support, or they do feel there's an issue, or they do think there's something where they need to talk about it, we have to have those opportunities where they can say, look, I've got an issue with this, I want to resolve this, so we can manage problems. But on a day-to-day basis, role of the coach.